Good afternoon and welcome to Ginger Live. Sammy Albano here, guest appearing for our great host, moderator, Ginger Broderick. Tonight, welcome back. And I'm very happy to be back. And what I have with me is a longtime friend, a New York City baseball legend, an icon in his own right, a world champion New York Yankee, Dominic Scala. Welcome, Dom.
How you doing, Sammy?
Good to see you.
Thanks for inviting me. Please.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Rainy New York Friday. What better to talk baseball with one of the legends that I know in New York City?
I'm ready to go.
You're ready to go. Well, first of all, it's been a busy week for you.
Yes.
All right. You know, I mean, the other night, you had half the Yankee infield from the World Championship teams of 1977 and 78, the guy named Chambliss and Randolph.
Right.
How'd you pull that off? Come on.
Well, you know, I've been with them for many years. Willie Randolph is my daughter's godfather, as you know. And Chris Chambliss, I gave him a call back in about a couple of months ago and asked him if he'd like to help us out. And with open arms, he said he would. Wow. And I'm very grateful because it was a tremendous night, just a tremendous night. And as you know, Sammy, that money is going towards a new clubhouse for the Adelphi baseball team.
And, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't say you are the very highly successful coach at Adelphi University of their baseball team, and you've brought it to a new level. You're in a new conference. And, you know, raising money like that for your facilities is only going to enhance the team's profile and help your recruiting.
Absolutely. You know, we opened a new baseball field about 7 years ago, so that was the start of the process. The other thing is, of course, you have to have a winning program, of course, and you have to have a great program as far as academics are concerned, and that's what Adelphi brings you.
All right. Well, you know, again, I don't want to go off topic here, but one of the things, you know, now we know each other almost 50 years. High school adversaries. We went to St. John's together.
Right.
And we've known each other. I covered you with CBS when you were with the Yankees. But, you know, one of the things that I will always admire about you is that you practice what you preach. You got your kids in the classroom. They're working hard. But one of the things that kind of escaped you over the years was that degree from St. John's because of your baseball career.
Right.
All right.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit how we rectified that situation.
Well, a couple of years back, actually I tried to do it about 5 years ago. I wanted to go back to school and finish my degree because I only had about 6 credits to go. And, you know, it's something that I always had in my head, but I never had the time. I always had my own business. I really didn't need it. However, this was an opportunity for me to do it again. And the timing was right. I called up St. John's, Kathy Meehan, as you know, and she helped me put it together. And I tell everybody that I had a 40-year scholarship because St. John's picked up all the tabs for me to go back to school. And 2 years ago, I finished my degree in business administration, which I'm very proud of. And I walked that day with the other graduates.
Well, like I said, I think it's a great example for your young student athletes, your baseball players, that, you know, you don't only, you know, talk the talk, you walk the walk,
sure.
And you walked right down that aisle with all those graduates. It was great.
It was a great day.
And, you know, we were talking, you know, before the show started, and, you know, you've had, you know, a long, distinguished career in baseball. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about that, going back to where you were a high school phenom. Now, let's fast forward. You go to St. John's, you're an All-American, although that almost took a detour where you were going to play football at Maryland for a day or two, but I guess the 2 days just weren't up to the Dom Scala work ethic when it come to that. But, you know, you went to St. John's, you're an All-American, you get drafted by the Oakland A's, have a pretty good minor league career, but you have injuries. And your baseball career seemed over. But why don't you tell us a little bit about what happened with the Yankees?
Well, like you said, I did get injured, came back. My arm was never the same. I was released by the Oakland A's the last day of spring training because of a very big trade that went between the San Francisco Giants and the Oakland A's, which was Vita Blue for about 9 guys. So, of course, that affects the whole scheme of the minor leagues after that. So I was released. I was home for about, I would say about 3 weeks. And the Yankees called me to see if I wanted to do this job in the bullpen. I told them I would, but, you know, with the stipulation that I'd like to get back into playing. So they said, no problem. So I went to the Yankees in 1978, in May of 1978, and became the bullpen catcher. And it was the start of a big career for me in the major leagues and then college baseball.
Yep, because it's not limited just to being a bullpen catcher. You were a bullpen coach.
Right.
Major League scout for the Pirates.
That's right.
Jim Leland was
That's
the
right.
was the manager of the Pirates at the time, and I
right.
believe he relied. You were an advanced scout, and he relied on all your reports. And the Pirates were divisional champs many years when
Right.
you were scouting.
That was a great job, Sammy. I actually loved that job because you felt part of the team. I remember wherever I was, if I was, say, in Chicago scouting, and I had just given a report on, that Pittsburgh was playing Philadelphia, I would be watching the scoreboard to see what the score is, and I always wanted it to be low because if it was low, 2-0, 3-2, that means I was doing my job. And it was just a great job. I loved it. I really did.
We're on the cusp of the World Series about to start. And, the 8 degrees of separation with this World Series, particularly if the Chicago Cubs get in, is going to really go back to you because you were with the advent of the bullpen specialist. You were with the Yankees when they first had Sparky Lyle and then picked up Goose Gossage.
Right.
You're the guy who prepared them. And the Cubs have Chapman, who they obtained from the Yankees at the trade deadline.
Right.
And the Indians have Andrew Miller. So give us a little feel for what you feel you did with relief pitches to make it such an integral part of today's baseball game.
Well, I could tell you this. Now, the Yankees had Betances, Chapman, and Miller in their bullpen. Similar to that, we had guys like Ron Davis, Sparky Lyle, and then Goose Gossage. Now, it kind of worked for the Yankees for the most part. However, for us, it really didn't work because the two closers, even though they were good friends, they both wanted to close. So what happened was it was kind of like a conflict, and I believe that's why it didn't work back then. And I also believe that the way the Yankees did it this year, it kind of didn't work either. It worked, but it didn't work enough because if it did work, they would still be on that team. And as you know, now Andrew Miller is over at is with Cleveland now, and the way they're using him is perfect.
And he proved his worth. He was the divisional championship and the American League champion MVP.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it was a great trade for the Indians, and the Yankees now have to wait and see with the prospects how they come.
Absolutely.
And, this is instant gratification with your fans. They want to win now. They don't want to win 2 years from now.
And it's funny because if George was still around, George never surrendered. He never gave up. He would have not given up those guys. He would have added, he would have added guys to try to get us to the World Series.
Because it goes to show you the Yankees, how close they came after the trade. Imagine had that bullpen stayed intact, some of the games they could have won, and they probably would have qualified for the playoffs.
Well, you know what? That's really hard to say, Sammy, and I'll tell you why. Because when you take away all of those people and there was other people in the trade that also went, now you have to add from the minor leagues. So those guys might not have gotten a shot, okay? But in retrospect, they should have brought those guys up a little earlier, but couldn't because of the guys that were there.
Yeah. Yep. Last thing, October 2nd, 1978, one of my fondest memories of you. Yankees playing the Red Sox in a winner-take-all. Winner goes to play the American League Championship. In those days, it was a winner-take-all. You were going to play the Kansas City A's. Right. You warmed up Ron Guidry. He had the stuff. But somewhere around the 6th inning, Bob Lemon used to call everyone meet, called you meet. He goes, get Goose ready. Tell us about that because I have fond memories after that game.
Well, Guidry at that time, as you know, he was 25-3 that year. He pitched a lot of innings. He completed, I'm going to say, about 15 games that year. And he was only 150, 160 pounds. So, during the course of a year, you get very tired. And he was going on short rest as it was on that particular day. I believe he was going on 3 days rest. So the plan was to let him go as long as he can and throw as hard as he can, and then you would have Goose in there 7th, 8th, and 9th. But let me just say this about, Chris Chambliss was with us the other night. 40th anniversary of his home run.
Yep, that was last week, a week ago tonight.
A week ago tonight, 40th anniversary. Bucky Dent's home run overshadows that all the time because it was such a crucial game, the one game. But Chris Chambliss's home run was a historic, memorable day for the Yankees because that started another dynasty. That started the 76, 77, and 78 team going to the World Series 3 years in a row, yet they hadn't gone 12 years previous to that. And then, that was a very big home run. Sure. I just wanted to make that qualification.
Oh, absolutely. And then you add into the playoffs in 1980 and then the 1981 World Series. That was a very good run for the Yankees.
Right, absolutely.
That was and you were part of it,
I was part of all of that.
Which was tremendous. But, getting back to that game, Yankees win the game 5-4. We get into the clubhouse.
Right.
And there's Bob Lemon, the Yankee manager, who came and did a tremendous job taking up a team that really was all over the place because of dissension, Billy being fired around July 29th.
Right.
And what happens, he's hugging you and saying, you got Goose ready. You told me when he was ready. And he relied on you. And as a 24-year-old kid, that had to be a big sense of self-satisfaction.
Well, it is because, I was new to the team. My role to the team was new because, as you know, I was the first bullpen catcher, in the American League. There was one in the National League, Mark Cressy, in which we met in the World Series that year. But, Bob Lemon didn't show much emotion. But that day, he was so happy because he brought us from those 13 and a half games to that game, and he did show a lot of emotion, and I'm happy about that.
Well, the other night, to get back to the other night, you had Chris Chambliss and Willie Randolph there, and you've done a great job at Adelphi. And, we have some photos from the other night that the studio is going to roll out,
Nice.
and I want you to tell us about all these photos.
Sure.
There's the original number 51, and I'm not talking about Bernie Williams. Who's that? Who's the skinny guy?
Well, Bernie and I know Bernie not very well, but I know Bernie from being at Old Timers days. Bernie's a great guy. And I always wanted to take a picture with him because we were both 51s. So I said, Bernie, listen, we got an opportunity. You hold up the 5, I'll hold up the 1, and let's take this picture. And that's on my wall, not only at home, but in my office.
And
I love that.
And the great thing is you're both part of Yankee dynasties in different eras.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because it's no... I believe going back to 1986 when you left the Yankees, you could see that it's almost not intentional, but the Yankees went in decline for 10 years after you left the Yankees. Bernie came back, and that's when his dynasty came up.
And that was 2 years ago. That was about 2 years ago.
That's great. That's right,
Day.
when he had his number retired.
Right.
And there he is. There's a guy you warmed up.
It's funny, Ronnie, we took a liking to each other. Ronnie was from Louisiana, a southern boy. I was from New York, a northern boy. But I'll tell you what happened, Sam. After about 5 starts in which he won in a row, he wouldn't let anybody else warm him up. He told no catcher to go down to
a lot of superstition in
Thurman
baseball.
Or anybody. He wouldn't, sometimes the starting catcher likes to go down and catch a field. And you watch it today, they do that in the bullpens,
Well, Louisiana Lightning won 25 games that year, no accident.
Do you know that he only threw 20 to 25 pitches to get ready in a game? Like there's guys, like the other night, I forget who they said it was, I think it was last night, somebody took a half hour to warm up. And Tommy John was like that too. Some guys need a lot of work. He used to save his bullets for the game.
But like you said, he was only 160 pounds, soaking wet.
Oh, I know this picture.
You know that picture? That's got to be the off-season.
That was in Chicago at a show when I had ML Logo, when I had my logo business, all the Yankee jewelry and all the sports jewelry. I had a booth there, and Billy was doing an appearance there for somebody.
And obviously it's the off-season. Tell us why we know it's the off-season.
Well, I have a beard, and the Yankees, you're not allowed to have a beard. You're only allowed to have a mustache and sideburns going down to about your lower ear.
And I know Billy loved you. Billy
did.
loved you. You loved him. He was like a second father to you.
Well, Billy was a guy that if you worked hard and you showed him and you showed him that you had loyalty to him, he would take care of you. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm a little bit like that now, Sammy.
I know
I have
you
a
are.
little bit of Billy Martin in me. I want people to be loyal and respectful. My guys, my coaches, and if you are, I'll go to distance for you. If I find that you're not, well, then I'm going to back away a little bit until you show me.
Yeah. All right, now this is from the other night.
Great picture.
You don't only have half the Yankee infield, you have another icon sitting there with
Ray
you.
Negron. I told the story about Ray, right? Want me to tell you the story
Tell
about Ray?
the story about Ray, because
when Ray Negron was 16 years old, he was doing graffiti outside Yankee Stadium on the wall of Yankee Stadium. The cops grabbed him. They were going to take him and they were going to lock him up. George just happened to be coming out of his limo, and he said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Well, this kid here was writing on Yankee Stadium." Blah, blah, blah. He goes, "Okay, just bring him with me." He brought Ray downstairs to the locker room, and he told Pete Shee, he said, "Pete," he said, "give this kid a job. He's going to be shining shoes, picking up underwear, going for McDonald's for people. Whatever you need him to do, he's going to do." And Ray has now been with the Yankees for 43 years. He hasn't left Yankee Stadium after that. So George Steinbrenner kind of saved his life, and he'll tell you that.
Yep. George Steinbrenner does not get a lot of credit for the loyalty.
Oh, look at this.
Now look at this. Who's that guy with the microphone in his hand?
Great shot right there.
Yep.
Hey, listen, I try to keep it light. You were there that night.
I was there. It was a great event.
I try to be very reserved, but yet I want to keep that crowd, and I'll try to tell a few stories and a few jokes, and we'll keep it going.
And the gentleman that we have beside the two Yankee icons is Ed Randall.
Ed Randall is the owner of Panther Stage now. It's his stage. We call that Panther Stage. It's kind of like I took it off of Center Stage.
Right,
You know what I mean?
and as a little sidebar, Ginger Broderick, who usually hosts this show, she's had Ed appear numerous times on this show.
Right.
Ed's just a great wealth of knowledge on New York City and Major League Baseball.
Well, it's funny because whenever every year when I send out emails to people about coming to the event, or if I'm speaking to somebody, they always say, "Hey, is Ed Randall coming back?"
You said that the other night.
And I said, absolutely.
No bigger honor than that.
Absolutely.
But, it's just been a tremendous thing. Now, there's Ed. He's talking with Willie and Chris Chambliss.
They were talking about that home run, about how they ran around the bases.
Right.
Because in the bottom of the ninth, first pitch, 20-degree weather, home run, running around the bases. And who's leading the charge? Little Willie Randolph was throwing blocks. Am I correct? He
Right,
was throwing
that's
blocks.
correct. And what did Chris Chambliss say 2 hours after the stadium cleared, the locker room cleared, after all the pandemonium? He went outside to touch home plate, but home plate wasn't there.
I didn't know that. That's exactly right. Because everybody knows that you must touch home plate in order for it to be legal and a complete game. But what? Home plate wasn't there.
Yeah. Now there you have. Let's get back to Adelphi. You've got Dennis Lind, who is a big supporter of your baseball program. Tell us about your alumni and the people that back you guys at Adelphi.
Dennis Lind is the president of the Panther Club. Panther Club is a sponsor of our event. And Dennis is a former player, and he gives up a lot of his time and donations and brings a lot of friends in. As a matter of fact, his table probably spent about $4,000 or $5,000 that night on memorabilia.
Yeah, and that memorabilia and all the sales, and there he is. I was just going to get
to that. On a cold day in April.
On a cold day, but let's talk about what's going to happen with that money on a cold day.
Okay, what we're going to the money, that money plus money that we raised, I probably raised about $200,000.
Here we are at Adelphi again.
Right, raised about $200,000 for the project of building a new clubhouse, and it's going to be started very shortly.
Yep, there it is. That looks like it's a clear day, but you don't, being a northern team, you don't have the luxury of having that type of weather. And your guys, sometimes they've got to go into the clubhouse to stay warm, and you're going to have that.
Right.
Look at that. That looks like it's freezing out there.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really warm up until like maybe the second week of April. I mean, it's tolerable if you dress the correct way, but and our kids, they're used to it. But what the clubhouse is going to do is, like, they're going to be able to go in there, have a cup of coffee, maybe some hot chocolate, while the other team is hitting.
Yeah,
you know?
but now there it is. You know,
Okay.
you're not only a distinguished baseball personality, TV personality,
Right.
you're an author. Tell us about
being an author. Well, Sammy, I always wanted to be published. I didn't really care about how many books I sold, but I wanted to be published. So McGraw-Hill contacted me through another person who did all the photos of the book, and they asked me if I would like to write a book. And I said, you know what, I would. And it really was a very, very nice book, if I do say so myself. It was a combination of telling my life story and showing new coaches who are parents today,
Right.
who maybe just want to coach their kids, but they really don't know how to do a practice or don't know drills. So what I do in this book is I give them practice drills, being organized on time,
Yep.
and all of that stuff.
And here we have a copy of the book, but this is a very unique book. Tell us why the book is so unique.
About 5 years ago, 6 years ago, Goose Gossage invited me to a golf outing upstate.
Right.
And there was a lot of great celebrities there. And what I did that day, I made all the celebrities that were there that day sign the book. And for instance, there was Jim McMahon is on there, Goose Gossage, Jim Rice, Joe Theismann, Mark Wahlberg, who's a great golfer. Mark Wahlberg, great guy, great golfer. And last but not least, Bruce Jenner. Bruce Jenner, who I had the pleasure of talking to for 20 minutes backstage before they announced everybody to go on the stage. And what a great guy. And we talked about him winning the decathlon and how tough it was. And in those days where he was, I believe it was Munich, am I correct?
That's correct,
It was Munich.
1972.
And that was the time when they had the problems there.
I believe, wait a minute, no, I believe it was Montreal in 76.
I'm not sure where
Yeah.
it was, but he said wherever it was such a great experience, and it was very, very tough as being a decathlon winner is. And as you know, he's not Bruce any longer.
Yep.
She's Caitlin.
Yep. But, you know, let's get back to the book, because we were talking about this backstage before also. And if, you know, as we were talking about, you realize at some point you got to call a kid into your office, and you've seen it at the major league level. How difficult is it to do it at the college level? Tell a kid, I don't think you have the tools. Maybe you want to go in a different direction.
Yeah.
You want to be a coach. You want to get involved
Right.
in one of the administrative things. You want to be a scout. Tell how difficult, because you kind of had it when you were hurt. Tell us about that.
Well, you know, I'm very fortunate. I don't have to do that much.
Right.
I may have had to in the 13 years that I've been coaching now. I maybe had to do it about 5 to 10 times. That's it. But what I do tell them when it does happen, I say to them, you know, I try to be as compassionate as possible, but I tell them, listen, somebody told me once that I wasn't good enough when I got released by the Oakland A's. But I'm not telling you to stop your dream. If you got to go someplace else and you have to continue that, I give you my blessing.
Yeah, you have to be, you're still dealing with young adults.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
you know, getting back to your book, it's not only a baseball skills book, it's a life skills, because parents shouldn't judge their kids on how well they perform on the field, but it's how well they perform maybe off the field, with umpires, with coaches, with their teammates,
Right.
interacting. And, you know, I think that you kind of touch on that also.
Yes.
And you could see it by your kids, the way they were dressed the other night, and how they, you know, talk with the public. And it's a very important thing what you do, that you have them mingle with everyone.
There's no doubt, there's no doubt that I'm a baseball coach, but I am also a mentor to them, and I am also a teacher to them. And I tell them all the time, whatever you learn here is going to help you in life, because there's a very small percentage. I mean, I've had 10 guys drafted in the 13 years, so that means I probably had 500 guys go through that haven't gotten drafted. So you got to do something else. So you have to make sure that you do the right things while you're here at Adelphi. Get your degree. Make sure you don't go overboard. I know there's a lot of temptations. Make sure you don't go overboard. Be careful out there. Watch each other's back. I tell my guys all the time, police each other. If you see a guy going astray, remind them that if he does something wrong, it's going to hurt the whole team. So I try to be a father figure on the field. I know I'm not their real father, but while they're with me, I feel that I'm the father figure.
I said to your lovely wife, Yolanda, the other night when they announced that they were, with the rendition of the clubhouse, there were going to be 38 lockers. I said, well, Yolanda, that's just what you need, 38 more sons. And, you know, she laughed, but you really are that father figure. I saw that the other night.
I try to be. You know, everybody is different. You know, some people listen to you, and some people, they think that they know more than you do.
Now, you were telling me before also that sometime in November, Willie's going into the New York State Hall of Fame.
That's right. I just found out today.
And you're going to probably be introducing him. And I just want to get to something. In New York City, they have a basketball Hall of Fame.
Right.
And I'm certain if they had that New York City Baseball Hall of Fame, the New York City Basketball Hall of Fame is for all levels, from high school right through professional. If there was a baseball one, you certainly were an iconic high school, college, and, you know, a world champion with the Yankees. You would be in that, and I would hope someday it would happen.
Thank you, Sam.
And, you know, unfortunately, your tenure with the Yankees, you know, George is a little volatile, and I guess about 1986 or so, he decided to make a change.
Right.
How difficult was that going from an on-the-field experience to being an advanced scout?
Well, you know something? At that time, I felt it was a step up for me. Yeah, you're a coach on the field, but this here is going to give you the other side of baseball, which is the executive side, you know? And I said, you know what? I think that this is a positive thing. And it happened so fast. I think that, you know, they didn't renew my contract, and about a week later, Sid Thrift called me. And Sid Thrift, the story is, Sid Thrift was the director of minor leagues when I was there with the Oakland A's. He drafted me.
Right.
So he knew about what I was doing, and he wanted me to come to Pittsburgh to help him because I had a Yankee background.
Yep. And then we have about 30 seconds, though, but you'll forever be known as a New York Yankee, first and foremost. And one of the things, it's ironic because you're in the jewelry business, but the piece of jewelry you're wearing isn't from your business.
Right.
Why don't you show the audience, display it? That's a world. Take it off.
There you go.
And display it. That's something you should be very proud of because there aren't many people that have it. And
Bucky Dent presented me with this because my ring wasn't ready when they all got theirs.
Right.
And Bucky Dent presented this to me at a special birthday party.
Well, we got to go, but I want to tell you it's been a pleasure having Dom Scala on the show today. Dom, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Sammy. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.